I think we are already past 4 o'clock, right?
Hello and welcome to the third edition of Deccan Herald's new webinar series, DH Sparks. In this series, we bring you views and perspectives and insights from top experts and opinion makers on a variety of topics. Today, in this session, we are going to discuss parenting in the time of pandemic. I'm Anita Pailur, a journalist with Deccan Herald. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome today's distinguished panel. Today we have former international athlete Ashwini Nachappa, renowned filmmaker Kavitha Lankesh, trained counsellor Maulika Sharma, and academician Father Sunil Fernandes. They all bring experiences from across the spectrum of this topic. I welcome each and every one of you to this session. And I welcome you all participants, those who are watching it on YouTube and those who have logged in on Zoom. Welcome to the session. Before we start, I just want to take a minute to say how it goes. Initially, we will have the panel discussion and later it will be thrown open to questions and you can all ask questions to these panelists. And why do we have this session today? As we all know, there is no magic formula to parenting. Every day we grow, we evolve with the children. And in a crisis like this, the challenges are definitely more. The challenges are definitely more because we have been seeing it very often. And in the past 4 months, I'm sure we have been hearing about various aspects related to parenting. Be it online learning, I think I should tell you this first because it has been discussed so much. Everyone has one view and we are so confused as parents. And then it is physical health of the child, mental well-being, and parental anxiety, and our anxiety to see how to balance work and life. So it's all mixed and we do not know what to do. Every day is a challenge. And my fellow parents, that is why we have this session today. I'm sure at the end of the session, you will have certain takeaways that will instill hope and confidence in you. Before we start the session, I would like to introduce Maulika Sharma, our panelist who would be moderating this session. Please pardon me for reading it out. Maulika Sharma is a trained counselor and trainer and works extensively with adults and adolescents. She holds a master's degree in psychology. Maullika has been a school counselor and is a regular writer and speaker on topics of mental health, well-being, and more importantly, parenting. She has been a columnist with Deccan Herald, and here she addresses questions from teenagers and students. And every time she responds to a question, I'm surprised by the way she brings in a different perspective to a problem. A problem that looks very deep or crisis for us is she makes it very simple. That is what I appreciate about her. She will introduce other panelists to you, and over to you, Maullika.
Thank you, Anita, for that introduction, and welcome everyone to this session. So I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce my fellow panelists. We have Ashwini Nachappa, who's an accomplished former international track and field athlete and has been actively involved in an organization called Team Sports India. Ashwini received the Arjuna Award in 1988 and is the co-founder of the Karaumbiah's Academy for Learning and Sports in Kodagu, which was set up to widen the scope of education and give sports as much importance as academics and bring it back into the mainstream of education. Welcome, Ashwini. Kavitha Lankesh, as Anita said, is an international award-winning film director, screenwriter, and lyricist known for her contribution to the Kannada film industry. She is a single parent by choice and an entrepreneur who runs a resort exclusively for children, which introduces them to various traditional village games and lifestyles, as well as educates them about farming. Welcome, Kavitha.
Thank you, Maullika. Thank you so much.
Father Sunil Fernandes is the principal of St. Joseph's Boys High School in Bengaluru. A Jesuit priest, he has held senior positions in several top educational institutions. He believes that education cannot be confined to the classroom, and he has initiated several learning initiatives to bring children out of the class to learn in a non-formal atmosphere. So welcome, Father.
Thank you.
Before we really dive into the topic, let's try and understand what exactly are these challenges that we are talking about. What is the nature of this beast that we are dealing with? Do you all remember the old saying, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy? Well, this could not hold more true than in the current environment, which does not really allow for children to go out and get play, get some exercise, get some fresh air, get some vitamin D, rest their eyes, and most importantly, connect with their friends. Not only can they not do that, but there is also this all-pervasive environment of anxiety, fear, helplessness, worry, grief, anticipatory grief, uncertainty, boredom, loneliness, and so much more that is affecting everyone. This has never happened before, that each one of us is facing the same emotional challenges, maybe to a different extent, but essentially the same at the same time. And this scenario is creating all kinds of challenges for us physically, mentally, emotionally, and logistically. As with every other challenge, the key to being able to successfully navigate this situation and mitigate its impact on all of us lies in being able to communicate effectively with the others in our life, especially partners, children, maybe parents, those that we are locked up into the house together with. So it's important for us to be able to communicate our needs, our feelings, our challenges, our expectations, and also allow the same for the other members of the household, and to do so without judgment, with a desire to learn and understand. Listen to learn rather than listen to respond is a good mantra for us. It is important to acknowledge that just like us, children have their own anxieties and worries about what's going on in the world as well. And we must talk to them about it in an age-appropriate way. By not discussing anything in front of them, we don't give them the permission to raise their concerns either. They may need reassurance and security. So it's not only our anxieties, it's also our children have anxieties, which we must give them space to share. With that, let me, before we talk to each of the panelists, I just want to give it back to Anita to share a poll question with the audience.
Thank you, Maullika. Before we start, we would like to take a minute and ask you a question. And for the benefit of viewers on YouTube, I would like to read it out. What is the biggest challenge you are currently facing as a parent? The options are keeping my child motivated, disciplining my child, negotiating screen time with my child, maintaining work-life balance, getting my spouse to take an equal share of 24/7 parenting.
So while we wait for the poll results to come in, I'd like to hand it over to Kavitha to share from her vantage point the challenges that children are facing with online learning And what are the challenges that this online learning environment is creating for parents who now need to also be part-time educators in addition to everything else that they already are doing? Do you have any
Thank you.
insights on how a parent can balance the demands of work and parenting with no real defined boundaries of time and space?
Yeah, Maullika, this is a kind of situation which I think none of us ever faced before in our life.
Oh.
It's very difficult, but at the same time, getting online schooling for my daughter, for instance, has been all right, but because the school has not been having a full-time schooling kind of thing, it's just a couple hours of schooling they're doing. At the same time, what I find challenging, for instance, my helps child. She doesn't have an iPad or a smartphone, or even my farm, where I have farmer workers are there. Their children, they're expecting to go online from next month. They're all studying in government school. So it's been very challenging for them. I've given one of my laptops and I've said, let me see how we can fix the Wi-Fi there. They don't have proper internet connection. So that would be more challenging. Being in the city with me and my daughter is kind of what you could call a middle class privileges there, I think, to a certain extent. In terms of facility, getting the facility I'm talking about. So at least we have that facilities there, to be able to go online and talk. Of course, it's another challenge that the child has to be disciplined enough to sit in the class. They're always multitasking. They're not getting up at time. They're not disciplined that way. So either they're eating or on the phone, texting with their friends and things like that. So, and the most difficult, I would say, is she's been missing her schoolmates and her teachers. She's saying, when will the school start? I would like to go back. I want to be interacting with people, and that's keeping a child without any social activity is very difficult, I think, and that's been the most challenging. So as I said, about one is that, second is the how can people all over the country or even the state have access to internet to go online schooling. So it's been very difficult, though whatever we could, we'll help, but how many people can help, and how many iPads can we get? How many laptops can we also get? It's been very challenging that way. Second is work-life balance has also been being a filmmaker. Right now, being a filmmaker, and also as you introduced me, I run a resort for school children. So both have been have come to a standstill right now. So there's a lot of time to be creative and write, of course, which is what is many of our filmmakers have all been putting our heads into a lot of activities. So that's been interesting. Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, we do come from a place of privilege where, online education is at least is still an option, but
Yes.
for a large part of our population, while theoretically, everybody's talking about it, how does it really translate for each and every one? That is definitely a question. So, Anita, do you want to come in here with the results of the poll?
Maullika, I think we may have to wait for a minute more.
Okay.
Maybe after Ashwini or Sunil talks.
Okay. So, Ashwini, would you like to share your perspective on what you see happening in the field of sports and sports education, which is such an intrinsic part of the all-round healthy development of a child? What do you think parents can do to compensate for it? And if there are if there are children who are actually aspiring sports people, what can parents do at a time like this to make sure the child stays on track, stays motivated, and can continue to build on that aspiration? Ashwini, you're on mute.
I'll take off from where Kavitha stopped about, online education and the numerous challenges that we all facing with this new normal that has come into being. And habits have made us all very comfortable, whether it's as parents, whether it's teachers, or whether it's the child itself. And I think as a parent, the most important thing is, if we cannot handle our life with the new changes, we can't expect our children to do that. And therefore, it becomes very important that parents' anxiety must not be on the children itself. And therefore, this new normal, we have to look at, reimagining, rethinking, doing things. I feel this is a time that's kind of come as a blessing to most of us, where we can really upskill in various, departments. We can take time off in hindsight and, reflect on what is happening. And I think there is ample time for families to rebond, in this kind of a situation, and for athletes also. I mean, I'm very, very happy with regard to sport, where there is numerous platforms, whether it's from the ministry for, Khelo India had for all schools. The Khelo Fit India program had online classes and actually doing a few yoga sessions and teaching, which most of the parents also attended with the children. So those are kind of tips that there's going on. There are a lot of federations, national federations, which have upskilling of coaches that is happening. You have a lot of athletes from across disciplines who've come out and, kind of motivated young kids. The Olympians Association is also doing that, having, we call it the Inspire program, where they come, Olympians come and talk about a routine that must be managed. But being a parent and also running an institution and being in the sports field, what really the child misses is the environment. As Kavitha rightly said, becoming a social animal is no longer, in the near sight. So to manage that and to manage at home. And I think there are a lot of things that parents can really do together with the child, besides the online classes and besides their work. It's all about restructuring and planning it out. And I think there's a lot of scope that if we are going to be cribbing about it, then of course there is no hope. I think we have to do what is within our control and plan out within that control what are the things that we can do to have family time, to have fun time, to do our own work. I think that is what's important.
Thanks, Ashwini. I think you've raised some really important points, which we'll be coming back to during the rest of the session. Anita, would you like to read out the poll results?
Yes, Maullika. Predictably, the biggest challenge parents face, as our participants say, is negotiating screen time with my child. 40% of the participants say that negotiating screen time with my child is the biggest challenge, and 28% of them say that keeping my child motivated is a challenge, and 15% of them it's disciplining their child, and 13% maintaining work-life balance, and only 4% feel that getting their spouse to take an equal share is a problem.
So that's
good. That's really good.
I know that, and that's another thing that this lockdown has done, is really got people to share a lot of, because there's been no support in the homes. It does have got people to share the burden of everyday running of the household and parenting and all of that. And that's really encouraging to hear that. And we've spent all this time trying to tell our children, trying to give them a little dose of screen time and trying to tell them to get off the screens and all of this. And now suddenly we are thrown into an environment where work and play and socializing and everything is connecting with people, and everything is basically happening on the screen. And maybe we really need to relook at that negotiation and what that's about, because it's probably counterproductive at this point of time to negotiate screen time. Maybe we do need to negotiate what we are doing on the screens during that time. So I'll move now to Father Sunil. It would be great if you can tell us about your perspective as an educator on what this transition has meant for institutions like yours, and what are the expectations you have from parents to facilitate the online education of their children. What can parents do and how can parents be that will make this experience of their children more effective and less challenging?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to share my thoughts on issues of great importance at this unprecedented time. As an educator, I feel that this transition has had a huge impact on our school. Like all schools, we too have moved online, conducting classes, staff meetings, interviews, parenting sessions, and even competitions in the virtual world. All of this has been a great learning for our staff. Students, of course, they belong to a generation where they have been born with a mobile in their hands, and they have taken to this very easily. The pandemic is viewed very negatively by everyone, but I feel it has also provided a very big opportunity for teachers, parents, and students to learn in a new way. The one very big fallout is surely sports. There is a huge emphasis on sports in every school. Today, unfortunately, our school ground, basketball courts, our indoor heated swimming pool, our table tennis and other sports facilities lie quiet and empty. Therefore, the transition has had both its pros and cons. For educators, the pandemic is an adaptive and transformative challenge, one for which there is no pre-configured model that can guide appropriate responses. To broach the topic on how parents can provide a strong and secure environment for their family during this turbulent time, I would like to present the 7P model as a suggestion or as a solution to cope up. What are the 7Ps? They are prayer, play, positivity, pause, ponder, proceed, patience, perseverance, and possibility. I would like to elaborate on each of these now. The first one is prayer. As we have experienced, prayer is something very personal and subjective. During testing times like this, belief in God or a universal supreme power certainly helps to unburden oneself. Prayer, it means pleading fervently. In other words, it is asking God for something very intensely, that is intense yearning. Prayer benefits us at the level of thoughts, actions, and our attitudes. Children who see their parents repose their faith in God, they will also do the same. We need to also remember that it is God who has led us during this time of crisis. And we need to remember and recall each and every blessing and grace which God has showered upon us and nurturing us all these 4 months and giving us that optimism, hope, faith, love, and joy to go through this crisis very positively. The second important aspect is play. As we know, it is essential to create an opportunity or an experience for children to discover their joy of childhood, of being a student in the families. And therefore, it's a good time for us to consciously include activities at home which are fun. Play is a natural way to help our children find it. Plan anything that brings laughter and giggles between you and your child or children, which will help the brain calm down and will also provide a respite from stress and tensions and worries in the families. Even if you haven't done it before, include yourself in fun activities. This is for the parents with your children. Try and do gadget-free activities. With small ones, it could be joining in their hide and seek, a treasure hunt around the house, involve them in cooking and being patient with the mess which they create, having a skipping competition or any imaginative thing they wish to do. With the older ones, you could play table tennis on the dining table, have a dance competition, involve them in creating your family tree, shoot a video of them in some role or anything which gets you involved with them, watch comedy, cooking, or travel shows with them. And this will lighten their mood. Engaging in play may seem trivial, but it actually helps us to bring us back to our childhood memories. It calms us down and it will help us in organizing and planning and also in our thinking. The third one is positivity, optimism. Practicing positivity is a powerful way of keeping stress and worries at bay. Feel blessed that you are healthy today. Practice random acts of kindness, and thoughts can help encourage one to be more optimistic, joyful, with a positive mindset. The fourth one is pause, ponder, and proceed. All of us have been swept away by this pandemic, and it has created a lot of panic among us, and with its resultant problems. But we need to pause. We need to reflect, that is, we need to ponder, and then we need to proceed. What are some of the issues in which we can ponder? Taking stock of our spending habits, changing lifestyle, our relationships. We need to ponder and reflect over these issues and look at these from a new perspective. It's a challenging time for each one of us, and we need to pause, ponder, and then proceed. And this will give us the time to look at everything closely, and it can bring in newer perspectives to our lifestyle. The fourth and important aspect is patience. Very often I've heard parents tell me, I don't know how you teachers handle a class full of children, class full of boys. I can't even manage 2 kids at home. Yes, patience is the key. Patience is the watchword. It's a very important prerequisite for teachers. Unfortunately, some of our parents may not possess it. Coping with one's own problems is hard enough. Expecting to be patient with children who by nature are very emotionally demanding is a very tough job for parents. So dear parents, especially fathers and mothers especially, try to be patient with yourself. Try to be gentle with yourself. Showing self-love is not selfishness. Parents, you too are human and you have your own emotional and human needs. If you are feeling good about yourself, then only you can be patient to deal with your children, with your aging parents, at work and also at home. And children too are at stress these days. So we need to relax the rules for them. Be flexible and involved in positive parenting. The fifth.
Thank you so much, Father, for very succinctly, sort of creating this little model for us, which has kind of covered, everything that parents need to do. And thank you so much for that. Let's focus a little bit on a point that Ashwini had brought up also, which is about parental anxiety. A lot of our behaviors and the quality of our relationships with our children really depends on how anxious we are as a parent. And what is anxiety? Anxiety is really when you're projecting into the future and you're projecting a negative outcome. So as parents, I think being anxious about your child's future is something that sort of is an inherent part of becoming a parent. We are always worried about will the child be successful? What can we do to ensure the child's success? And this is really based on how we define success and what have been our current life experiences. So we are constantly trying to push them, shape them, mold them, get them to do more and be more, because maybe that would guarantee their success. The reality is that no matter what we do, we cannot control their future. They have to live their own life and go on their own life's journey and learn their own life's lessons. But our anxiety about their future success interferes in our ability to be with them in the moment, enjoy them, learn from them, and maybe even grow with them. Most of the time, parents never have any conversation with children which is other than about their work, what they have not done, chores they have not completed, or things or situations where they have not measured up. So before I really, like the panelists to comment on this and on how, I do want to make one suggestion, which may sound a little bit outlandish, but I do think that parents, during their parental journey, should always have a counselor whom they can talk to about their parental anxieties, so that those anxieties are not defining their relationship with their child. Otherwise, typically the relationship with the children becomes about how you are dealing with your own anxiety. So can you set that anxiety aside and have another space to deal with it, and let your relationship with the child be without that anxiety? Would any of you like to come in on that?
Yeah. Maullika, actually, I would like to say, I think most parents, we do think that we all want our children to be successful, but I think our main objective should be that the children should be happy more than any success. I think the success is very subjective to, it will always find you might be successful to one way in a certain level. Someone else, you might be more successful. So it's a very competitive world. And it's a rat world. So I think we should look at, are the children happy? That's the main thing it should be. And as you said, the anxiety, for instance, we all think, when we were children, for instance, we would be going to school only when we were 6 years old. Till then, we were all happy and running around on the road and playing, and we play with our cousins, and that would be the normal thing then. Now we are putting our children 1 year, 9 months to Montessori's. We are bringing their age down, so they're less and less children, and we are forcing them to become adults very soon, I think. I think this kind of pandemic has given a reality check, like Ashwini also said rightly, that we should bond with our own families. We should bond. I don't think 1 year or 6 months going away for a child in the gap of the school year, is a great loss for anybody. I think they can learn. It's not just schooling; they're learning in many, many other ways also about the world around them. Including the pandemic itself has given so much awareness to them, in fact. So that's all very important, I would say.
Right, and also it's been given a time for us to pause and reflect, and that's almost invaluable. I mean, when all of us are caught up in this rat race, I think we would have never imagined that we would actually be gifted this time where we can pause and reflect on what's happening. Ashwini, would you like to comment here?
Yeah, I think for all parents who have tuned into this, I think a very important thing is to make new routines as a family and for yourselves. And I think when you are in an environment, in a closed environment, and you're not able to do much, so in that limited space, especially for parents who are in apartments, I have a lot of friends who've been talking about it, but create a kind of a structure within that 24 hours. Say you get up and have a family time of exercise, family cooking time, and build on those challenges. Say that, I'm going to take this challenge. Say, if you're going to do exercises, do one session of yoga maybe. Maybe you do as a family 3 Surya Namaskars, take it up as a challenge and say, let's see who does more on the next day. I think you've got to make it more creative, more, talk about it, interact about all these things, cooking, doing exercise together, building on skill sets, especially for sports people who want to build skill sets. There's a lot of time for you to read, research, explore, do all these things as you exercise at home. Pick up a dumbbells for those who are, at home, want to pursue in their strength training, do your planks, do a little bit of strength. So there are various things that you can do, from gardening to cooking to building listening skills, building reading skills. I think today most parents, at least from the vote we can see, and which is the truth, is to restrict the, screen time. And that is the new normal. And we have to see within that screen time how we can make it more creative and more challenging so that children get away from it. So building these things, and I think for me, as as somebody who's dealing with parents on a regular basis and who runs a school, and for my teachers who are also parents, for teachers, it's a lot of work. Actually, a lot of teachers have become, very savvy with the technology that is being forced upon them right now, because there is no choice. And the same goes with parents. Some of the parents who don't have that technology are trying to learn. So you're learning new things, you're experiencing new things, which is good, which we never would have done. Something like Zoom, we've all been trying. Even now we go off and on. So we're all trying this. We're learning new things. And I think we should be happy rather than cribbing about it. So there are things that you can do as a family. There are things that you can do within a restricted space in terms of, challenging oneself, challenging each other within a family, talking about it, listening to music, so many things. Storytelling is a great time. If you have great, grandparents at home to tell old stories, bring back all those things which has been really lost.
Yep. Thank you. And yes, it's really important to try and be as inclusive and come up with activities that need to be done and that are chores, but that can become family activities and, be done together. Cooking is a great example. Gardening is a great example. Exercising together. So we have to look at ways in which we can create meaning out of this opportunity that has been really given to us. I also find that sometimes parents carry a huge amount of guilt from the belief that they are not being good enough parents. The neighbor's child is doing so much better, is engaged in so many more activities. I should be doing more, I should be pushing my child more. To that, my response is really that there is no place for guilt in parenting. We each need to believe that we are good enough parents, given our circumstances, given our understanding of ourselves, given our understanding of our world, given our understanding of our child, we are doing the best we can. We should not be second guessing and always thinking, always putting ourselves down for it. Social comparison really not something that should be our guiding principle. I should be like this, or my child should be like this. They do nothing more than
I think that would be, Maulika, that would be the biggest mistake. Because, comparing with others would be the biggest mistake, because then you're restricting and not opening up your own horizons. Because this is a time that you can really explore, think, and do so many things differently. And that kind of realization should be there. And, you should go back in hindsight and see the things that you can do differently rather than comparing to oneself.
Another important aspect what we have to remember in parenting is this: the human growth, it's a slow and a steady process. Therefore, there is no need to hurry. I think the pandemic has given us a time where we have to slow down, we have to become slow and steady. And in parenting, what we have to remember, all the parents have to remember is this: though we call it as positive parenting, each one's parenting styles are different. Therefore, every family should be very comfortable in raising their child, giving the spiritual values, the human values. And during this time of this pandemic, there is a lot of stress, anxiety, and tension which everyone goes through. If the parent has to be very loving towards the child and give them this hope that they can cope up with this pandemic, and with regard to this online teaching, with other aspects of life, that they have the capacity, they're able to cope up with all these things, and that's how our life goes on smoothly. Therefore, we should not hurry, but we need to slow down and then give the space to the children to grow.
So, the mistake the mistake that we also make is that we kind of teach our children to think of life as a series of 100-meter sprints, one after the other, rather than looking at it like a marathon, where the goal is really to complete it successfully. It doesn't really matter what anybody else is doing. At best, it could be to improve your own time, which is irrespective of what somebody else is doing. In a 100-meter sprint, your goal is just take a dash for it, win, and be done with it, and then move on to the next dash and the next dash. In that model, there is really no scope for making mistakes. There is no scope for pausing and thinking and tripping.
But Maullika, I must correct you there. Even in the 100-meter sprint, you need to take time to plan and strategize and rethink, and go back and then do a lot of mental preparation, because, you've got to be mentally strong. And I think this is the time for young kids to really work on mental strength, which is lacking. We are all preparing them to be, get onto online classes, do this, do that. But then things like meditation, doing yoga, controlling your emotions, these are things that can be learned and can be developed at these times so that you can manage your life skills.
I've heard, thanks. I have heard some comments about parents saying that, this is like a lost year for our kids. No. And that really surprises me, because if anything, this, it's not, there's no such thing as a lost year. Maybe it didn't pan out the way that you would like it to be, but it existed. And in that existence, it gave us the opportunity for different experiences. Maybe we didn't like those experiences, but the experiences nevertheless. So can we look at reframing the lost year for ourselves and our children? And how we do it for ourselves will have a great impact on how we do it for our children. So, taking time to think of what has this situation allowed us to do or learn or even be, which we would not have otherwise been able to do. So can we use this as an opportunity to teach resilience to our children, to teach life skills, to develop an attitude of gratitude? After all, education does not happen only in the classroom alone. So, before we go on to the next poll question, Anita, maybe you want to put in the next poll question, and everybody can come in with their comments as well after that.
Yes, Maullika. here is the next poll question. Key takeaway from this discussion. What is the one thing from today's discussion that will help you while parenting? So I'm reading out the options. It's okay to ask for help. Parents must deal with their own anxieties outside the parent-child relationship. Shared responsibility is key. Involve the rest of the family. Be gentle to yourself. Don't discount the impact of the current and emotional environment. Focus on resilience for the long term, not the next exam. This too shall pass. Don't focus on the chores, focus on the children.
Kavitha, would you like to come in with your comments about, this concept of lost year?
Yeah, certainly. Because see, I think in the Western world, if you see in the Western education, many kids actually take what is called a gap year.
Yeah.
Which we don't do here. We are always competing and running and trying to say, okay, let's finish. It's after 10th, second PUC. After that, it's either graduation or professional course, and after that, work. So we really not even allowed to take a deep breath and think. And most times our children are ambitions are always the parents' dreams. They say an engineer's doctor, engineer, doctor. Doctor would say, okay, you're going to be an engineer. So they hone the children from beginning. Absolutely, the children themselves are interested, it's great. But otherwise, we don't even look at what is really, the capacity of the child. What is where the interest of the child lie? Is it painting? It could be anything. There's so many other fields, and it could. We never say MF Hussain. He's not gone into an academics that way. So we don't train somebody to be a painter at all in our country in many ways. So people I think the parents should stop thinking that they're lost a year. I think they should take this year as a gift in terms of looking, and maybe look, because we also as parents, we are very busy, most of us, with our work and, chores and everything. There's multiple things we're always doing all the time. So maybe this is the time to recognize and maybe look deep into the child's interest, where it lies, and maybe hone it. If not, maybe if not a professional school or something, at least if it's interested in some other, any creative kind of field, maybe pursue that to a certain extent, make some time for it. Because they always say, even a doctor who happens to be a painter in his free time is a fantastically motivated and calmer mind. So I think that's important too. There's a creativity in every one of us in all the fields. So I think it's important that we take this time, instead of looking at it negatively like last year, look at it as a game year, I would say.
Yeah, thank you. Anita, did you get the poll results?
Yes, Maullika. Could we have the poll results, please?
Okay, so.
Yes. What is the one thing from today's session that will help you in parenting? So 29% of them are saying focus on resilience for the long term, not for the next exam. So that is 29% of the participants, and next is obviously be gentle on yourself. 22% of the participants are saying this. This is their biggest takeaway from the session. And 22% of the participants are saying that this too shall pass. And 10% of them are saying shared responsibility is key, and parents must deal with their own anxieties outside of the parent-child relationship. But no one is saying that it's okay to ask for help.
But I'm actually happy to hear the poll results, because really the message that I do want to leave with everybody is to focus on building resilience rather than just looking at the short term. And just to address this bit about nobody is willing to ask for help, I think that to a large extent stems from our beliefs that we should be able to do this alone, and we should, if we are asking for help, it's a sign of weakness. The reality is asking for help is probably the most difficult thing to do, and therefore it is in no way a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of great courage. So maybe you want to rethink that a little bit. Should we take any questions from the audience now, as we are closing in on the
Yes, Maulika, we have a question. So now we throw open the house to questions. We have a question already from Professor Dipendu Sundar Ray. He's asking, do you think there will be change in the pedagogy due to COVID-19?
Maybe Father Sunil, would you like to answer that?
Father Sunil Fernandes may have to respond to this question.
Yeah, surely. See, across all the boards, be it the state board or ICSE or CBSE, we already have reduced the syllabus. So what happens is, if you take in the normal course of time, the syllabus was taking too much. I think we have already done the rationalizing of the syllabus, in which we do not want to, all the boards, they do not want to burden with only knowledge and only of learning. So that is one step which already we have done. And the other one is also what we call as the skill-based or the practical kind of learning which the child has to undergo. It's not just rote learning, but especially in the CBSE and the ICSE in the council, they would like to teach the children, the students, some life skills, which is very, very essential, especially during this time of the pandemic. So the pedagogy is a teaching learning process which goes on continuously without affecting our own lifestyle. And for as an important aspect, we have reduced the syllabus for this academic year. And also the counselors in every school, I think they are taking counseling sessions, not only for the students, but also for the parents in order to encourage them in positive parenting and to deal with the stress and to cope up with this particular pandemic.
Thank you, Father Sunil Fernandes. And we have a very interesting question for Ashwini or Kavitha. One thing lockdown has taught you in parenting. Either of you or both of you can respond to this.
Ashwini, you can go for it.
To be patient, to be absolutely calm, and to do everything that you do it with joy. And I think there is no rush in life at all right now.
Ashwini, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I just said.
Kavitha, would you like to respond?
For me, I think it's the other way around. I learned to be a child, I think, because I was going crazy, and my daughter is much more calmer. So she would say, "Why are you doing this?" So it was very funny, different. So she'd say, "No, calm down. You can just, I'm always the type to go out and do things, multitask all the time. So I was made to, there's a flurry of activities for the first month of cleaning and cooking and everything. Then you say, okay, you're going slightly mad." But I think my daughter has a reverse effect on me. She calmed me down, and it was very nice. I learned that I could be a child and she could be my mother too. Yeah.
I think Ashwini has already responded to this question, but still I'll just read out if you want to add anything. What are the good ways to keep children physically active within indoors during this pandemic? You have already spoken about it, but still, if you want to.
Yeah, I think for most children to calm them down, you have different categories of children where they are hyper, and some of them would like to be very, very mellow kids and they don't want to be much active. But I think, as I said, importantly, to do meditation, because the anxiety that has built in parents and amongst children, especially being in a restricted environment. So you have to spend at least 10 to 15 minutes in doing activities that calm yourself. So meditation and small yoga. In fact, one of the sessions that I did was just purely pranayama. I think as a family, if you can play some light music and just do breathing, observe your breath, observe your heartbeat, become aware of every muscle. I think that will really get you some kind of control emotionally and physically to take you through the day. And some of the things that you can do as a family is, if you have a slightly older kids, then you can, have dumbbell challenge or plank challenge or push-up challenges or squat challenges. Just at place skipping, very good for skipping, high knee running. You just stand. So you can clock each one in 30 seconds and see how many times you can do the repetitions. So there are various such things that you can do at least the first 45 minutes, or you have to ensure that 45 minutes of time is given for the entire family to do this.
Thank you, Ashwini. The question was by Padmavati. I forgot to read out the name, sorry.
Okay, sir.
And
I hope I've answered Padmavati's queries on being just generally fit within a restricted space.
now we have a question by Nalini Gupta. This is for Kavitha. Kavitha, you said that it's a norm to have a break of 1 year after studies. However, while trying for a job, it becomes so difficult to explain the break year. What to do?
No, I think, especially this year, I don't think there'll be any problem at all because it's the new normal. So I think everybody has an excuse that way. But at the same time, I think even that 1 year, what they do is very important. In terms of, I'm not saying, lay in bed and go on your screen time, screen time, but you could do discover yourself. And that discover yourself, the kind of things what you've discovered about yourself can be put into your resume, which is very wonderful. There's so many experiences that matter. Sometimes we all forget that it's not the destination that matters, it's the journey. So that's very important, what you go through the journey in your life, and to savor it and enjoy it and learn from it is very important, I would say.
Absolutely, yes.
I've done a multitude of things. I've done 100 different things before I became a filmmaker. Even now, it's not stopped there. I'm farming, I'm doing things. So life is a continuous journey, and we discover many, many interests. And we should stop that, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so life is not just a journey. It has.
I would just like to come here, Anita, and I'd say,
sure.
Most of our Indian parents want children to be educated to get a job only. And I think let us look at it in the reverse. And I agree 100% with Kavitha. Enjoy that journey. To most parents who are looking at only a job, take a chill pill. Really, this is the time to take a chill pill. And just enjoy your time with your family. Everything, there is a time for everything. And I believe in that. You can't go hammer and tong that this 1 year is lost. It is not a lost. It's not a lost year at all. I don't look at it like this because, as father said, 30% of our syllabus has come down in all boards, whether it's ICSE, CBSE, state boards. And as it is, we can, kids are smarter than us. They can keep up to the pace. They can adjust and adapt to the new normal. Well, we parents will be really worried about how do we adapt to it. But children, believe me, will adapt to the new norm and they will do it more easily than us. So we as parents need to be more open and just enjoy the time, enjoy the journey, as Kavitha rightly said.
As Kavitha rightly said it, our life is a journey. And in this journey, every day is a learning experience. Experiences could differ and it could be a pleasant experience, a hurtful experience, or a painful experience. But our life itself is a sum total of all these experiences. And we make these experiences as a beautiful memory. And this gives us the hope that we can face anything in life. And therefore, it is a learning experience for all of us.
Here is a question from Mr. Wasim Sheikh. He is asking, do you recommend online classes for toddlers?
I would say no. Really, I would say no. I don't know whatever the psychologists say, whoever says anything, because as it is, it's become very normal for parents. Earlier, we would take our children out and show them a tree or a bird and say, look, have your food. Now it's become just watch screen time and eat your food. It's become so much, and the kids are doing their own thing within 1.5 to 2 years. I mean, of course, everybody needs screen time. Everybody needs technology. All that is fine. But I think having screen time for toddlers is really, really very bad, I would say.
I agree.
One thing is keep them occupied, because I know the difficulty of a working mother. If she's called back to job because the lockdown is over and the child is not, can't go to school, Montessori or whatever. But the whole purpose of Montessori is not just to learn ABCD or 1, 2, 3, but I think it's socializing, because we're all a very lonely set of people. We don't live in joint families. We're all nuclear families now. We don't let our child play on the road like earlier. So it's important that they go and socialize with their own age group. Otherwise, all this online class for toddlers, and I think Maullika also should answer this, because you being a psychologist would be
Kavitha, you'd be happy to know when these online classes came up, I told my principal and the team, until 5th grade, we are not having online classes. Okay, this is the time to learn new skill sets. Try and give them, assignments that can build new skills, whether it's gardening, whether it's any kind of thing. And I think that is really working well because parents are also getting to learn these new skill sets. And as you said, Montessori kids need to develop. Most of our kids lack eye-hand coordination. And these are built through activities that the parents can do at home, that is done in a Montessori environment. So, screen time for Montessori kids, I really don't think, though the kids, they say they're very tech savvy when they're born itself, but I really don't agree that they need that kind of screen time for Montessori kids at all.
Right. Do we have, absolutely agree with that. Do we have any other questions, Anita?
Yeah, there is one more question. I'm sure this is a working parent. The person whose name is not displayed here, he or she is asking that teaching is going on, but how can working parents make sure whether learning is going in child effectively or not? Basically, I think that person wants to know how to manage children's online learning while they are at work. Maullika, would you like to take this question?
So, that's kind of, you just have to, at one level, I think you also have to trust your child.
Absolutely.
How are you going to know whether they're learning? They need to want to learn. And that's this environment that you create around education and what it means and why they need to learn. And they should have that curiosity to learn. Ultimately, if they are attending something and it's interesting and it satisfies their curiosity, why would they not learn?
I think most online classes have, they also have assessments that, assignments that are given to them. You can always say, you can't be doing a policing job for older kids. As you said, you need to trust them, and then you can always go back and check the work that they've done. I think most schools have sent out timetables for their online classes also. So you check on the timetable, sit with your child and very happily discuss what happened today and what are the learnings from it.
So I think that's, we've kind of run out of time now. And very quickly, if there's anyone who wants to give any closing comments, we've already hit the 5 o'clock mark. Kavitha, any closing comments?
No, it was a lovely session and it was lovely interacting with Sunil and Ashwini and yourself.
Ashwini.
And of course, Anita.
Well, for all
important session, I think, in today's time. And it's important that a lot of parents see this and not really pressurize the children more and more. I know there's a lot of being pressures on the children, as you know. And as Ashwini said, take a chill pill and it's fine. And take it cool. It's okay. The world is not going to end, hopefully. And that's what we should be worried about, and should take care of ourselves. And it was a lovely session. Thank you, Declan, and thank all of you.
A day is not wasted when memories are made. So what we have to remember is maybe this pandemic has taught us to be stronger, emotionally and mentally tougher. And we have to always remember that this too shall pass. And tough times don't last, but tough people do. So we need to have this optimism, we need to have this hope, and we have the capacity to deal with this pandemic in an effective way.
Thank you.
To all the parents, to all the parents, I think all of you all must not let examination define or the marks define your child. There is plenty of time to do things in a joyful manner, enjoy that journey and stay fit, stay calm, and, work together.
Thank you. On that positive note, I'd really like to emphasize, just focus on the long term, focus on resilience. Enjoy the journey with your children. Your chores are not going to go away, but your children will. So let's not look at this bonus time that we got to really reconnect and enjoy what's been given to us. And I'm sure we'll get onto the other side and we'll learn how to deal with it at that point in time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure.
Kavitha,
Thank you.
Maullika and Father Sunil Fernandes for joining us and sharing your valuable insights. I'm sure it's been very useful to all the participants here, and This has been such a stimulating discussion. Yeah, I'm sure it has been useful to all our participants, because we discuss from making connections, how important it is to make connections, and also how important it is to share, and what a big difference it can make in parents. So thank you everyone again for your time and valuable insights. And thank you all the viewers for joining us here. So thank you all for your time, and Deccan Herald will continue to host such webinars regularly on topics that matter. So follow us on Facebook and join our YouTube channel, subscribe to it, and stay in the loop. Stay safe, take care, and stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Kavitha, Ashwini, and Father Sunil. It's been great having a conversation.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.